Good evening, everyone, and welcome. The Women's Engineering Society is proud to present the Caroline Hazlitt Lecture and the WES Awards. My name is Elizabeth Donnelly, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of WES. Before we begin, you should know that we are recording the session, so you'll be able to view the content again. We will first of all be holding some awards, and then we will go to the Caroline Hazlitt Lecture, followed by a quick Q&A, and then we will have the presentation of the Karen Burt Memorial Award and the winners' presentation and another question and answer session. You'll see to your right that there is a chat and a Q&A feature. You should be able to hear and see us as well as this presentation, and if you're having problems with your audio, check your settings in the side panel. Please use the chat for any technical problems and to congratulate the winners, and the Q&A feature when prompted to ask questions to our speaker. If your question disappears, it will have been posted in the published area of the Q&A so that everyone can see it, and you won't need to post it again. The WES President, Dawn Childs, is our host for this evening, supported by Susan Robson, newly appointed to the WES board. We hope that you enjoy this evening's presentation. So now these are our hashtags, hashtag Caroline Hazlitt, hashtag WES Awards 2020. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the President of the Women's Engineering Society, Dawn Childs.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this evening's event, the Caroline Hazlitt Lecture, which is an annual lecture given in honour of our first secretary and founder, Dame Caroline Hazlitt. She was co-founder of the Electrical Association for Women and became its first director in 1925. Her chief interest was in harnessing the benefits of electrical power to emancipate women from household chores so that they could pursue their own ambitions outside the home. In the early 1920s, few houses had electrical heat or lighting, let alone electrical appliances. The national grid, of which I am one of the directors, was not yet even in existence. Dame Caroline said, "Way is being made by electricity for a higher order of women. Women set free from drudgery, who have time for reflection, for self-respect. We are coming to an age when the spiritual and higher state of life will have freer development, and this is only possible when women are liberated from soul-destroying drudgery. I want every woman to have leisure to acquaint herself more profoundly with the topics of the day." Nearly 100 years later, we are all reaping the benefits of her work. This evening, we are honoured to have Amanda Fisher, CEO of Amey plc, taking the lecture, and I will introduce her more formally later. We are also presenting this evening, will be the winner of the Karen Burt Memorial Award, given to the best newly chartered female engineer in the UK. Before we get to the presentations though, I'm delighted to launch the next iteration of WES's mentoring programme, Mentorset. Originally, this was set up by former WES President Petra Grattan in the late 1990s. Our mentoring programme has supported hundreds of women through their engineering careers. As women have been most affected by the pandemic, losing their jobs at a faster rate than men and carrying the major burden of childcare through these difficult times, the WES board agreed that the need for mentoring is greater than ever. We are therefore opening Mentorset on a new online platform with a new look and at a much reduced cost of just £48 for WES members. Other women in engineering can also join Mentorset for £120, though with WES membership priced at £60, I think there's an incentive to join the world's oldest network of women engineers and the largest women's engineering network in the UK. I therefore encourage you to make a New Year's resolution to advance your career with WES mentoring. It is now my very great pleasure, though, to begin this evening's events with the Amy Johnson Inspiration Award. This award honours an individual not currently working as an engineer or within the applied sciences, who has made a truly remarkable achievement in furthering diversity within engineering and applied sciences by inspiring more women to enter and or remain in these professions. We will now view a video about the award from Alexandra Knight, a West trustee and the head judge for the Amey Johnson Inspiration Award.
Good evening, everyone. It was a real honour to judge the nominations for the Amey Johnson Inspiration Award. This prestigious award honours an individual who is not currently working as an engineer or within the applied sciences fields, but who has made a truly remarkable achievement in furthering diversity and inclusion within engineering. This award serves to recognise their efforts in inspiring more women to enter and remain in the engineering and technical professions. The panel of judges and I this year were definitely inspired ourselves by the standard of applications. It was just brilliant to read about the amazing work that people who have been nominated are doing. So congratulations everyone who was nominated, and keep up your fantastic work. This year we decided to present a highly commended award because there were so many incredible entries. But the winner really stood out to us. The outstanding work she does to encourage young people, especially girls, into STEM is just inspirational. And I want to say a huge thank you on behalf of all the judges and everyone at WES for the amazing work you do.
I will now hand over to Susan Robson, a fellow WES trustee, to announce the Amey Johnson Inspiration Award runner-up.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm delighted to announce that the runner-up and awarded a highly commended certificate is Nazia Mahmood, who is Gender Equality Officer at Scottish Engineering. Nazia delivers training to the leadership of engineering SMEs across Scotland to raise awareness of gender equality in the sector. The programme had been designed for face-to-face group delivery, but as the pandemic hit, Nazia innovatively redesigned the programme for digital delivery, allowing the amazing work to continue smoothly. Nazia is also a STEM ambassador, and as a woman of colour and with an invisible impairment, speaks as a role model for understanding intersectionality. As a member of the YWCA in Scotland, and with her involvement with the First Minister's National Advisory Council on Women and Girls, Nazia has been working to change a political narrative for women's rights in Scotland for several years, and was also a graduate of the pilot programme for the Young Women's Movement. Through this, she has sat alongside MSPs within parliamentary committee meetings to address the issues of violence against women and girls in education. We have a thank you video from Nazia, and I hope you will all join me in congratulating her in the comments.
Hi everybody, Nazia Mahmood here. I am humbled to receive this highly commended from the Women's Engineering Society. It's truly touching. I'd like to thank all of those who nominated me, the Scottish Engineering team for their continued support through my inclusive engineering programme, Equate Scotland for their continuous support as always as well, and to all of those allies for equality, diversity and inclusion within all sectors. It's fantastic to see the emphasis that's being placed on gender equality within the engineering sector, though statistics do show that there's a lot more work to be done. And with research showing that women will become the backbone to recovery from this current economic crisis, it's more important than ever that we push forward with this message. So thank you once again, and a huge congratulations to all of the nominees and winners. We're all part of a collective effort.
And now to the winner of the Amey Johnson Inspiration Award. Fiona Hopkinson was the Development Officer at Alton School in Hampshire, who led the cultural transformation of the school to a leading school for STEM, and as noted in the Good Schools Guide, the percentage of girls choosing physics GCSE rose from 42 to 87% within 3 years of her appointment. The perception of engineering soared, with the newly created roles of STEM prefect and STEM captain becoming coveted positions. Parents were actively engaged and impassioned, with the sponsorship of an engineering prize and active involvement in school activities. Fiona worked part-time at the school. However, her commitment was full-time. Fiona was dedicated to extending the reach beyond the school walls, inviting girls from local schools to participate in events. Fiona also directly mentored several students to become role models, with an impact the school has described as truly life-changing. Such was their effect that a 10-year-old boy asked, "Can boys do engineering too?" Stereotypes were dispelled before they had the opportunity to even form, with children as young as 3 engaged in engineering activities and implicitly understanding that engineering is for all. Fiona's passion for understanding and creating awareness and opportunities for others continues. She is currently completing her MSc in Organisation Psychology to enhance her insight into the diversity challenges of the sector. She is a STEM engagement volunteer at a girls' school in an area of social deprivation, described as a dynamo by the head. She has already made a significant impact to the pupils in the school and their development as inspirational role models. Truly a worthy winner of the Amey Johnson Inspiration Award. Please show your appreciation in the comments. Many congratulations to Fiona Hopkinson.
Thank you very much. I've got so many people to thank I wouldn't know where to begin. However, there is one person in particular that I would like to use this forum to recognise. An inspirational and authentic leader, Dawn Bomfield opened the doors to the Women's Engineering Society at the beginning of my journey. Dawn enlightened me on the breadth and depth of opportunities in engineering, unleashing my passion to do the same for the next generation. It is so rewarding to support students to challenge their sense of self, explore previously unconsidered possibilities, and then take the mantle to inspire others to do the same. It is even more rewarding to do so collaboratively, to bring others on the journey. Thank you so much to everyone who has so generously shared their invaluable time and expertise. I've loved every second. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Congratulations to Fiona, and great to have a shout out for one of my predecessors, Dawn Bomfield, too. So we now turn to the Menace Allies Award, which celebrates a male engineer or professional man working within the engineering, technical or applied science sectors, who's gone above and beyond the call of duty to support his female colleagues and address the gender imbalance within engineering and applied sciences in general. West trustee Alexandra Knight was also head judge for this award and has prepared this video.
Good evening, everyone. I had the privilege of being head judge this year for the Men as Allies Award. This is such an important award as it recognises the key role that allies play in progressing gender diversity and inclusion. As we all know, the benefits of a diverse and inclusive culture are well evidenced and don't just impact women. Everyone benefits. And we have to ensure that the work done to improve diversity and inclusion is not just left to the people in the minority. Having majority allies on board to support, promote, champion and fight for what is right is key in our overall success in organisations and society as a whole. So this Men as Allies Award is a brilliant platform for showcasing male engineers or professional men working within the engineering, technical and applied sciences sectors who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to support female colleagues and address gender imbalance within engineering. This year, we had a record number of entries, and the judges and I were very impressed with the fantastic work being done by so many men who care about making a difference. The 3 finalists for this award were Mike Naylor, Mark Wilde and Stephen Gill, who are all true role models and setting an example of what is possible for others. So thank you for everything you do, and congratulations on being our Menace Allies 2020 finalists.
For the first time, we've decided to announce the winner live at this event. The judges agreed on these 3 finalists, and so now Susan will just give you a little synopsis of them.
So this year there were 3 terrific finalists for the Menace Allies Award. Firstly, Mike Naylor, as Alex mentioned, who has been at the forefront of 2 companies in which STEM careers play a vital role, Dell and Amazon Web Services, where he's become actively involved in diversity and inclusion policies and activities with a particular focus on STEM. Mike was part of the Dell corporate sponsorship team for Women in Defence Awards, ensuring key involvement with the winner every year. He's also an ally and supporter of Butterfly Books for young children, which challenge gender stereotypes. Encouraging gender stereotypes isn't good. Challenge gender stereotypes in traditionally male careers. And he regularly volunteers as a STEM activist, encouraging female colleagues in STEM job roles. Mike held a leading role as a volunteer on the STEM Squad, the planning and execution team for the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst STEM Careers Fair, which saw thousands of young people engaging with female role models in STEM careers. At AWS, he is seeking new projects to showcase STEM roles to women by offering practical advice and support to individuals, teams and groups. Mike is passionate about this work, believing that diversity and inclusivity enables better teams. Mike was nominated for WES, Menace Allies Prize, by the STEM Squad, who all recognise how much better the future could be if there were more Mikes in this world. Congratulations, Mike. Our second finalist is Mark Wilde, the Chief Executive Officer at Crossrail. Mark has had a long career in transport operations and infrastructure, both as an engineer and as a business leader. He's consistently developed and implemented real change over 20 years, bringing innovative ideas into staff policy and procedures. The hallmark of Mark's leadership has been to create inclusive work environments and to build diverse teams. When Mark joined Crossrail as CEO, only 16% of his leadership team were women. 18 months later, the team is now 58% female, a practical demonstration of his commitment to diversity. Throughout the last 20 years of his career, Mark has mentored over 100 young professionals, and he has been mindful to ensure a fair balance and representation in his mentees. Using a structured approach to mentor 2 or 3 mentees at a time, these mentorships continue for 6 to 9 months, and Mark cites this as the richest and most rewarding part of his career. Mark is also a patron for Women in Transport and supports many organisations outside of work to improve diversity, including his active sponsorship of the Women's Staff Network Group in Transport for London and the creation of Females in Transport Engineering. Mark's proudest achievement was to move the general locus of influence from the traditional office-based professionals to colleagues in the front line. Congratulations, Mark. Our third finalist is Stephen Gill. Stephen is a mechanical engineer in the heating, ventilation, air conditioning and refrigeration sector. Steve is a pioneer for the sector, both nationally and internationally. He founded World Refrigeration Day, not a moment too soon, Steve, and has used his involvement across the globe in the sector to encourage women, governments and high-profile organisations to support and develop female talent, giving up his own positions to promote others. In October of this year, and with the support of the UN, Steve created a global network for HVACR organisations with women's sections. The network promotes the sharing of experiences and best practice and plans to broaden out its work to encourage other national associations to form their own women's group. Leveraging 2019's World Refrigeration Day theme of diversity, Steve has supported various African associations in forming a new Pan-African association in time for this year's World Refrigeration Day. This is a historical development that will transform technical support in the region, including a gender chair to oversee the training and development of women engineers and technicians across the continent. Now more than ever, we can see how important and timely this work is in the context of building a COVID vaccine rollout programme, and the very long-lasting and far-reaching positive impact Steve's work has had and will have for many years to come. Congratulations, Steve. We have a very impressive set of male allies as our finalists, and I hope you will all join me in congratulating them in the comments.
And it is now my pleasure to reveal that the winner of the WES Menace Allies Award is Mark Wilde, CEO of Crossrail. Please show your appreciation in the comments as per normal. And hopefully we have a video. Perfect.
Thank you for this award. It's an honour and a privilege to receive recognition for something that I enjoy doing and indeed consider part of my job. Thank you very, very much to Wes and of course everybody on the shortlist who I'm sure is equally deserving of this. It's greatly appreciated by me, so thank you very, very much.
And after that fantastic round of awards, it's now on to the main event. And it's my real great pleasure to introduce Amanda Fisher, the CEO of Amey plc, who's going to deliver this year's 2020 Caroline Hazlitt Lecture. Just a few technical points. Hopefully the slide will move on in a minute, but a few technical points. If anyone has any questions, please post them in the Q&A box and we'll put them to Amanda after the presentation. She'll be speaking without slides, so if you click on the top right-hand corner of her image, she'll become the main focus on your iPad or your laptop, and you can also make her full screen if you wish to. But before I hand over to Amanda, I just want to give you a brief overview of her very impressive career. She was appointed in December 2019, having been Managing Director of Facilities Management, Defence and Justice at Amey since August 2017. Since training at Sandhurst and being commissioned as an army officer, Amanda has sought out demanding leadership roles throughout her career. She's pursued roles that focus on delivering critical public infrastructure services through senior and board level positions. But before joining Amey, Amanda was the Managing Director of Balfour Beatty Living Places, becoming the first woman to reach such a UK senior role within the International Construction and Services Group. She's previously held roles at Alfred McAlpine Business Services, Allied Healthcare Group, and ISS Defence and Security. Her current role sees her leading a business of some 17,000 employees. As in previous roles, Amanda champions diversity and the development of employee potential, challenging existing cultures and promoting a clear business vision, values and strategy, giving employees the freedom to perform. And I think you'll agree that we're guaranteed to have an inspirational lecture this evening. So I'm now truly delighted to hand over to Amanda.
Thank you and good evening. And Dawn, thank you so much for such a kind introduction. And I am honoured to be joining you this evening to give the Caroline Hazlitt Lecture and to have the opportunity to meet so many contributing so much to promote women in the world of engineering. And I'm just sorry that we're not all together, in person, but we're having to meet over Zoom. Let me start with a confession, and I'm not an engineer, but since December last year, I've led Amey, a business of 17,000 people, many of whom are engineers and technical staff. But I don't have to be an engineer because I trust their expertise. and I can rely on them to give me all the technical information that I need. And actually, it was one of my team, Alex Knight, one of your trustees, whom I must thank for nominating me to give this prestigious speech and persuaded me to speak to you, because I have to say my new role has prompted many requests to give interviews or to speak, but I've turned them down because, to be honest, I felt that I needed to focus my energies on Amey. But Alex encouraged me to share my story of the last 12 months and the lessons for the power of female leadership I've taken from that experience. So, Alex, thank you. And the very best wishes to you in your new venture, STEMazing, offering practical support and motivation for women to shine in STEM careers. You are already an inspiration and will be to so many young women and girls who are thinking about a career in engineering. Amey and the Women's Engineering Society actually share a very similar timeline. You were founded in 1919 and Amey in 1921. But do you know what? In almost 100 years, the company had not had a woman in its most senior role. But as luck will have it, although I'll leave you to judge that by the end of this speech, whether it was good luck or bad luck, but it fell to me to become CEO literally a matter of weeks before we came into COVID, and then only 3 months before we actually went into the first lockdown. I didn't expect the promotion, and it came totally out of the blue. And I certainly wasn't banking on a honeymoon period because the business really did need to be turned around. But I couldn't have predicted the perfect storm the world would be heading into, with COVID being the biggest disruptor that we've faced in generations. Totally unprecedented, and no one had all the answers. And there certainly hasn't been a blueprint for handling it. And yet colleagues who were previously my peers were looking to me for the answers. And yet it is this disruption that's provided the opportunity for female leadership. You just have to look around the world and see the leaders who've proved their worth in these times. Germany's Angela Merkel, New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern, Denmark's Mette Frederiksen. You've got Taiwan's Sinny Wen and Finn's Sanna Marin. And it's not just a gut feeling that many of us share, that these women have performed better than so many of their male counterparts. In August, the World Economic Forum published research concluding that countries led by women had, and I quote, systematically and significantly better COVID-19 outcomes. So why then do I think that now is the time, for women leaders? I believe it's a powerful combination of humility, of people focus, flexibility and authenticity that we as women bring to leadership, as well as our ability to communicate and show empathy. All of these are qualities so vital in times of crisis. And it'd be fair to say the defining moment for me as a leader came early in the lockdown, actually. I had been asked what would happen if any of the Amey workforce had to self-isolate. And my response was that we'd contractual arrangements for sick pay and that we'd pay that. But I hadn't actually thought through all the consequences, because it actually meant for many that we would only be paying £94 a week in statutory sick pay, while those on furlough would actually be getting 80% of their wages. And I'll admit, it created some media headlines. So when the story broke, I realised that my next move would define what Amey was as a company and who I was as the chief executive, not just through the pandemic, but beyond it. My approach to business has always been that a company's real value is in its people, and I knew I had to demonstrate quickly and clearly that we were ready to support them in tangible terms. And this wasn't an issue just to shrug off and move on. I knew this was the time to back myself and my vision of what makes a successful company. I took the personal decision to invest in our people and invest straight away, despite the economic challenges we were all facing. I immediately overturned our existing policy and offered full pay to any employee who suffered from COVID-19 related illness or had to isolate. And I think importantly, I apologised for getting it wrong previously and thank those, including the GMB union, who had opened up the issue. Humility, the ability to put your hand up and admit a mistake, is a characteristic I believe that many female leaders share, and one that has had a positive impact on colleagues and the public. And the pandemic has shown how important it is that leaders do not lose sight of the people who create the value in our businesses. We do so at our peril, because an engaged workforce is more productive, creative and healthier workforce. And it was also very telling that our sickness absent level actually went down through the pandemic, proving that the decision to offer that safety net to our people was the right one. Amey is one of the top 5 support services suppliers in UK, and whilst we may not be an everyday name, what we do touches every household in the country. And during this pandemic, we have kept the country moving. Our 17,000 people keep our transport networks running, as we are responsible for managing and maintaining rail, road and motorway networks across the country. We collect and process waste, maintain our public parks and open spaces, and ensure that children can attend clean and safe schools. We keep the defence estate operating, maintaining vital assets, as well as over 50,000 military homes. And we even manage courts and prisons across the country to ensure that they are safe and serviceable for the justice system. And we've got a critical role in the power and water sectors, all of which is supported by a 2,500 strong consulting business who use engineering design and data analytics to better map out and manage the infrastructure and the services that we all use. And yes, we've got impressive technology and we've got impressive kit as well, but at the heart of our company, it's the people that matter. And during COVID, more than 2/3 of our employees were classed as essential workers. And their presence in our communities has provided a degree of normality in a highly unusual period in our history. And they've gone above and beyond to keep essential services running across the UK, as well as making sure that key workers can get to work. And the pandemic has been both an enlightening experience, but also a strengthening one. It's brought a welcome shift in how people view the services that we provide. Many used to take them for granted, but I can say that that's no longer the case. I mean, who would have thought at the beginning of 2020 that it would be cleaners, people collecting our refuse, installing pipes for our water, who would be among the heroes of the people who kept the country working. And it's provided a deep insight into the personal pride our people have in delivering public services as frontline workers. And this pride is the secret to Amey's strength as an organisation. It's been clear people have stepped up and performed during a time of national need. And so much of this characterises our new purpose as an organisation. We removed our old corporate straplines and moved to personal pride in our public services. And it's just one simple purpose. And COVID actually helped me define who we were as an organisation. And it has also given me the opportunity to accelerate my own agenda to transform the company. Because in a crisis, when people around you are looking for answers, you actually have more freedom to act decisively. And my ambition had always been to make Amey a real living wage employer. And in April this year, I'm proud to say that we achieved it, and much earlier than I had ever believed possible. I just brought it forward. I'm also proud that we have levelled up sickness pay across the business so that no matter what role you have, you'll be treated equally and fairly should you get ill. And at a time when other organisations were making cuts to people and budgets, I did the opposite. I doubled down on the investment in our people. But I was also determined to change Amey's very hierarchical corporate structure into an organisation that trusts its employees and gives them responsibility to perform. And we now have a freedom to perform culture, which is based on trust leadership, or in other words, giving the business to the people, who deliver, rather than having the leadership sitting as a board of directors dictating what should be done. Not something that's very effective when we're in lockdown during a pandemic and you have to react quickly. And the 3 guiding principles of this strategy are empower, engage, and excel. And our people now have the responsibility to deliver the best that they can, to make decisions and help shape the future of the company, to excel. And this is about recognizing the value that they can bring. And it's not in a business's interest to stifle thinking or innovation, but give people responsibility and they excel. And we've brought this to life by giving our people a voice. We now have a directors hotline for individuals to share ideas and raise concerns. We introduced Yammer to give everybody a chance to voice an opinion, to share an experience or ask a question. And our Springboard Ideas programme, was about harnessing our employees' great ideas for the future of the business. And these ideas are often simple ones, but they can make a big difference. And an example of that was when one employee came up with a simple idea of purchasing a sky pole. Now, this is an extendable pole and it inspects guttering and roofs so that you don't need to hire scaffolding equipment, and also you don't have to have people working at height. And this idea has not only made the workplace safer, but it actually saved the team over £100,000 in the year. We also have other countless examples of Amey people going beyond their jobs, such as helping to make NHS scrubs or providing PPE to care homes, which has been regularly celebrated on social media. And I've been meeting frontline colleagues to celebrate their successes as much as I can on video calls. And we've been sharing those conversations throughout the business. And it's these kind of conversations where an ability to listen well and be authentic is so important. Faking enthusiasm or interest is impossible under such close scrutiny. And many male leaders tend to shy away from this kind of thing, and just because it seems to be too risky and there's a fear that they may not have the answer. But you don't always have to have the answers, but you have to be obviously listening and then acting on what you're hearing. And for me, I think that's what makes the difference. Employee engagement is so much more than just communicating. It means listening and then acting on the information that the employee is giving you. And historically, Amey has been a bureaucratic top-down body, and I wanted to open it up, moving to a much more meritocracy-style organisation with everybody sharing great ideas to create a springboard to future success. And when you have real employee engagement and you empower individuals to take responsibility and have a genuine pride in what they achieve, you can really excel as an organisation. So freedom to perform is my strategy to move Amey from being inward looking to focus more clearly on how we can deliver what our clients want in the best way possible. Consider the positive impact of having a well-motivated force of 17,000 individuals working for me, all with enormous pride in the work that they do. That's powerful. And the pandemic has also been an opportunity in other ways. It's helping to create a fluid, innovative organisation that can succeed beyond COVID-19. We've got more remote working, and that's here to stay. And with a new approach to working, such as flexible working patterns and increased home working, we really don't need as big a property footprint as we currently have. But even as restrictions ease, I want to reduce travel as much as possible. We're now embracing technology, and we've got the experience to hold so many more meetings online. And we saved £1 million per month on travel and subsistence through the beginning of the pandemic, just by using technology better. Therefore it really does make good business sense to find ways to minimise this cost creeping back up. While actually, when you think about it, you're improving the quality of life by giving time back to the employees instead of them travelling around the country. And as somebody myself who likes holidays, I actually, I find that's good for well-being and recharging the battery. I actually want to introduce more flexible leave across the organisation as we move on into next year. And I've been talking up the positives of the pandemic, I realise that, but I can't ignore the major impact COVID has had on well-being and mental health, especially among young people. And this is a challenge all leaders have had to respond to, and why I believe it's so important to give Amey's frontline workers a pay rise, increase sick pay and level up holiday allowance, because for me, a central part of good mental health is based on financial stability. I mean, you don't relieve stress by, cutting pay, but there are also other important elements to well-being that we have to pay attention to. For example, our graduates and apprentices have really struggled the most with the lockdown, as they're used to meeting friends and work giving them a support network. So recently we held a wellbeing festival involving over 300 young employees to support their wellbeing, and it also allowed me to engage with them directly. And what was interesting is what they wanted to know, such as how did I manage my own mental health and wellbeing as a CEO? So I then followed this up with the graduates interviewing me about how to tackle the change in our working environment and just things about how I manage my time. And then those interviews we shared across the company. And I even invited graduates to a board meeting so that they could see firsthand how we operate at that level, and also to give some feedback. And we also have an active and growing wellbeing ambassador network with 215 wellbeing ambassadors now in the company, half of whom hold a mental health first aid qualification. And this network plays a major role in the development and delivery of our wellbeing strategy, such as running events and hosting weekly mindful sessions. And I'm proud of the important work that they are doing. And there's been a lot about pride in this speech, but what you haven't heard me say is that I am proud of Amey. And I never will. And that's because Amey is a corporate, inanimate organisation. But what I am proud of is the people who work for Amey. And my advice to you all, those of you who are already leaders and those of you who are aiming to become leaders, that you create so much more value by shaping a vibrant, people-centred narrative for your organisation, rather than just a grey corporate narrative. Early on in the speech, I actually asked you to judge whether I'd been lucky to have been thrust into such a senior role at the time of a crisis. And COVID-19 has been a terrible pandemic that has wreaked so much damage to people's businesses, finances, health and well-being. But I do believe that if we as women are going to have a moment as leaders, then our time is now. The pandemic has brought about a levelling up in the boardroom. Building a reputation is no longer based on the suit you wear or the nameplate on the door. People have to believe in you as a leader. And people will no longer be told what to do by leaders who don't connect with them. I mean, here we are all now on Zoom, and what matters is communication and authenticity and attributes we all share as women. And your society's theme this year has been Shape the World, and what an appropriate theme. Flexibility and innovation have been vital in the response to COVID, and it has put a renewed focus on the value of people. No longer can issues such as mental health be dismissed as fluffy female issues, and no longer can we rely on hierarchies or doing things the way that we have always done before. Now is the time when the world needs women's qualities and for us to make our mark. And I know we can't do it all alone. And I have worked alongside great male leaders since the start of my career in the army. And I'm so pleased to see that the Women's Engineering Society celebrating male allies as well. But as women, we have a responsibility to be confident in our skills, qualities and experience, and to use them to help shape the world in a better way. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, and I've always tried to follow this mantra throughout my career, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I recognise how eager you are as members of the Women's Engineering Society to drive change in your profession and more widely in our society. And I wish you all the best as you shape the world for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Sorry, I'm not very proficient with unmuting my own mic. As always, it's really fascinating to hear from the people behind these enormous companies like Amey that are everywhere. And it was so lovely to hear, for a change, someone who's in such, who's in the top role, who is looking inwards first before they then rush out to tell everyone how brilliant they are. So that was really refreshing to hear. And I don't want to turn this into a confessional, but it was good to hear that you're not an engineer, because I'm also not an engineer, but I have worked with engineers for the last 10 years. So I think it's important to have that diversity in engineering firms. So I think your desire to not do external speeches, this one may have backfired, because I predict that you're going to get a lot of requests now to talk about these amazing ideas that you've kind of whizzed through today, because they were so fantastic. So thank you very much. We've got, I'll just remind everyone, if you've got questions for Amanda, please do post them in the Q&A. I have a question of my own, which I'll open with. So you talked a lot about this kind of paradox of hierarchy, that the pandemic has really flipped on his head, both in terms of, you know, Amey and the wider world. So the fact that people such as cleaners and refuse collectors are now really seen as key in resilience. And I just wonder, I mean, you said, you know, things have changed. I just wonder, do you think there is a real legacy here in terms of how society views the people that really form the basis of keeping the lights on, keeping society going? Like, how do we keep that, you know, value for the people who kind of do the real work?
No, that's a good question, Susan. Thank you. I mean, I think that, you know, for me, in terms of the fact that we took away our corporate strapline, which was all about doing stuff, actually, you know, what we create, what we build, to focusing it on the people. And during the pandemic, the reason that I chose this personal pride in our public service was actually because of the pride that our people were showing in doing their service, but also it was the resounding support that we were getting from the members of the public. And for me, always being a people focused, you know, person, I was able to bring that then a people value to the organisation. What we've got to do is make sure that we continue that pride and invest in our people. And the government are talking about the levelling up agenda. And I think that this is now the time as well where we can really step in and help that. But it's going to be the frontline people that will do that, you know. And I think that we've seen through COVID that it's those people on the front line who have kept us going. It's not us in the boardroom, and it's not being your directors. It's, you know, we've all been working from home in safe environment. It's been those that have, you know, literally been putting their lives out there at risk. And I don't think it will be forgotten soon. And we really need to capitalise on that.
Thank you. That's great. I don't want people to think you haven't done anything, because we do appreciate the work that the like I say, you know, it's really interesting to hear from the people that sit at the top and ultimately where the buck stops. So it don't want to brush over the work that you've done. So a couple of things in the comment. Alex was really pleased that you gave her a shout out. She wasn't expecting that. So she wanted to say thank you again for doing the lecture, especially as you don't often do these things. question from Sally Sudworth. She would like to know, what words of wisdom do you have for perhaps the younger members of the network about how to progress their careers? I know you talked a little bit about your time in the army and working at, I think, Balfour's.
Yeah.
What advice would you give maybe engineers and non-engineers, let's be inclusive here, about how to get to CEO?
Be careful what you wish for. I think that's the first thing. But I think it's important to keep focusing on long-term goals rather than just on short-term, all the steps. We tend to focus on the steps so that we can, see clearly at the moment in terms of having to get there. But, if you look at the longer term, a bridge will always open up, even if you can't see what those steps are. And an opportunity will always come about and help you. You will never be stranded. But you have to keep the sight sort of forward thinking. Opportunities will present themselves, and it's always being aware of what those opportunities are. You might have a slight diversion in getting there, but don't get distracted or lose sight of that end goal. And timing, if ever there was something that I wished, the genie in the bottle, it would be to have perfect timing, and it never happens. So you always have to be aware that when an opportunity comes, take it. Don't just and as women, we tend to be a little bit reticent at doing that. We want to finish what we're currently doing or not leaving people in the lurch. But you have to take those opportunities, otherwise you'll never move forward. You'll never move on.
I feel like you've directed that explanation straight at me, so I've taken those notes down. Very wise words. So another question from the chat here. So this is from Ellie Gormley. She wants to know a little bit more about the wellbeing ambassadors that you've set up.
Yes, so we've actually set up, we invited people from the organisation, to share experiences, because things like mental health, as we all know, we don't really talk about it. But I think that was the biggest surprise for me, and my biggest learning as a chief exec was just the vulnerability of our youth, actually. And then I'd recognised through some of the interviews that I'd been doing that we had people who'd had experiences, and actually, ones that could help other people. So it was about sharing those. And what we did was we set up a wellbeing week, actually, in June it was, where we just took one of the 5 sort of facets of wellbeing and then concentrated on that on every day, whether that was, get up, do something for fitness, learn something new, take time out to have a coffee morning, get your better communication. And that really opened it all up for the organisation, and people started to ask if they could become ambassadors. So we've put some training in place, and we moved it away from being an HR sort of responsibility and moved it into sort of health, safety, and we now call it health, safety and wellbeing. But we do have a whole programme of events, and it's about encouraging people to take time out, not just to talk about mental health, but and health and well-being, but actually to go and do things. And we're giving them the authority, we're giving them the time, saying, yeah, go and do it. Don't worry about having to be in front of your computers. Go take time out.
Yeah. And have you found that your leadership are role modeling this? Like, do you take time out, or do you find yourself sort of saying do it? But
I do, actually. I do, and I'm very open, because I think rather than people having to try and work out what do you mean, I've always found in terms of, and this comes back to communication, just be obvious about it. So I actually did say to my exec, look, we're in front of the Teams meeting all day, every day. you have got to take a break. You have got to go out and have a walk. You can't do back-to-back meetings. I've been very clear that I will not phone anybody before 8 in the morning or after 6 at night. If I do, it's an emergency. And I'm talking about my team. It's an emergency, so that they know that they're the sort of the core hours. Because I think you have to set these types of boundaries so that people feel that they don't have to be on duty 24/7. And that's been a big change in our culture for our business. Big change.
That does mean a lot to people to see you guys doing it. I think that gives them permission. Question from Sarah Haslam. She says, thank you for a great lecture.
Yes, I think that's a great.
She was wondering if you could share what your biggest challenge has been. I mean, I think you touched on a few points in the talk there, but what's your biggest challenge in the pandemic, and what learnings would you take from this?
Oh my goodness, I tell you, it's interesting because I think the fact that I'd only been in 6 weeks as a chief exec, that was challenge number one, that I was going to be and I'm first time chief exec at that, to then go straight into COVID. But I think the challenge was that probably more for the organisation than me, because they didn't know what to expect. So what that did, it allowed me to bring what I wanted to do into the organisation faster. But I think that it's I was a much more, what I wanted to do was bring a people focus, but the organisation was very much hierarchical. It had to come from the top down, and what I wanted to do was really get into the front line and work up. But I think the big mistake was that one about the sick pay, not really thinking it through. And the light went on that night. When I went home, I have to say that evening, it was thinking through that the decisions now that I make are going to shape not just the organisation, but they're going to shape me as a chief exec as well. And I think that realisation then created, probably that was the challenge, but that created probably a short-term stress for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it's good though to hear that particular story, because people often think of decisions as the end point, and you cannot make another decision afterwards. So I think it's a really great story to hear that you didn't just run with it. You then made another decision afterwards, after kind of realizing the consequences of what the outcomes were. So there are loads more questions in the Q&A, but I'm afraid we're at time. So I don't know if we can somehow get those questions to you or share them with you. And maybe we can, I think quite a lot of it was answered in the lecture. But Amanda, thank you so much. Really amazing to hear you talk, and good luck.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
Hand back to Dawn now.
Thank you so much, Susan and Amanda. Really inspirational words and such fantastic questions and answers. So I'm so looking forward to seeing some more answers to those extra questions. It's now time for the Karen Burt Memorial Award, which is presented in recognition of the best newly chartered woman engineer. Now in its 22nd year, this prestigious title recognised the candidate's excellence and potential in the practice of engineering. It highlights the importance of having chartered status, as well as offering recognition to contributions made by the candidate to the promotion of the engineering profession. All of the nominations are made by the professional engineering institutions for among their newly chartered female engineers before going to a panel for judging. Dr. Karen Burt was a tireless campaigner for the recruitment and retention of women in science and engineering. From her own experience and her extensive research, she was regarded as an expert in the management of career breaks and women returners to engineering. From business acquisition manager at BAE to establishing the Centre for Advanced Instrumentation Systems within University College London, Dr. Burt's career was abruptly ended by a devastating stroke. The Memorial Award was established by her father, Cyril Hilsum, one of Wes's patrons, and attracts a cash prize of £1,000, as well as the presentation at this event of the winner's chartership project. We will now hear from Sally Sudworth, former Wes Honorary Secretary and Head Judge for the Karen Burt Memorial Award.
Hello, my name's Sally Sudworth, and until recently I was the Honorary Secretary for the Women's Engineering Society, and I currently chair the Climate Emergency Group. I was delighted to once more be the chair of the judging panel for the Karen Burt Award this year for 2020. This is an award for the best, most recently chartered female engineer to enter the industry. The calibre of the nominees this year was truly inspirational, and they were outstanding, and they reflect our future, so I know our future is in safe hands. I'd like to particularly thank the judges who helped this year, Swee Gu, Jo Strange and Fiona Scott. And particular thanks to these three ladies who have helped to judge the submissions over recent years. And this year we were joined by two new judges, that's Helen Ramsey and Catherine Critchley. It's Catherine Critchley who sits on the Women's Engineering Society board and who will take up the position as head judge next year. And I hope that Catherine will enjoy doing this work as much as I have. I've really so enjoyed being the chair of the judging panel for the Karen Burt Award. It's one of the most interesting things that I've done in my career. Thank you very much and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Sally. This year, the award attracted 10 nominations from the professional engineering institutions. In alphabetical order of institution, these are as follows: Andrea Kiss from the British Computing Society, Sharon Wilson from the Chartered Institute of Highways and Transportation, Camilla Fletcher from the Institute of Acoustics, Hannah Day from the Institute of Physics, Regine McCarran from the Institute of Chemical Engineers, Tina Gunnison from the Institute of Civil Engineers, Helen McGloin from the Institution of Engineering and Technology, Madeleine Combrink from the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Iona Price from the Institution of Structural Engineers, and Kirsty Ward from the Royal Aeronautical Society. I'm sure you'll agree, these are all amazing women and amazing newly chartered engineers. So we will now hear from Dr. Catherine Critchley, the Joint Head Judge and Wes Trustee, who will announce the winner.
First of all, I would like to thank Sally for her time as head judge. I'm honoured to be taking over. I want to thank you especially, Sally, for helping me to become ready for that role by allowing me to shadow you this year. I agree that judging has been very difficult and that the nominees have been outstanding. I'm delighted to announce, though, that the winner of the Karen Burt Memorial Award 2020 is Tina Gunnarsson from the Institute of Civil Engineers. I have a citation from the ICE about Tina, and it is as follows. When we carried out her charter professional review, we were very impressed by Tina. To start with, she is clearly very bright, having graduated with a first-class master's degree from Imperial College London. She has also achieved a great deal in the 4 years she has been working for Balfour Beatty, predominantly as a temporary works engineer, but also having spent time working on a large building project at Canary Wharf. But what impressed us most about her was her other achievements. Tina has fundraised, then travelled to Rwanda with the charity Bridges to Prosperity to construct a suspension footbridge for a remote community, including developing innovative methodologies for safe construction of the footbridge. She has also done some great work to raise the profile of women in construction, including being awarded Best Woman in Civil Engineering and Most Distinguished Winner at the 2019 Weiss Awards. And she's involved in a number of initiatives at Balfour Beatty, including Engineer of the Future and Reverse Mentoring Scheme. We can all agree that Tina is a very worthy winner of this award, particularly during 2020, when West's theme for the year has been Shape the World, focusing on sustainability. In her testimonial, Tina wrote, "I'm passionate and driven by sustainability and therefore aspire to be working towards helping the UK achieve net zero carbon by 2050, and by extension contributing to the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In my previous roles, I have always brought a dimension of sustainability to my work, taking on the role of sustainability coordinator while I was a site engineer, and initiating sustainability collaboration with WSP and Mott MacDonald in my role as relationship lead for our strategic design consultancy partnership. In the future, I aspire to have a role focused on sustainability rather than it being a dimension that I actively incorporate into my work." Tina, I really hope that you achieve that aspiration, and I believe that you will do that with a great amount of energy and actually achieve that really well. And I'd really like to congratulate you, Tina, on attaining this award. Thank you.
And thank you, Kathy. And I absolutely echo the fantastic congratulations to Tina from the Institution of Civil Engineers, who walks off with the £1,000 prize. And I'm so thrilled to say that Tina joins us now to give a presentation of her chartership project. There will be some questions following the presentation, which Susan will host, so do get posting your questions in the Q&A panel. Over to Tina.
Good evening, everyone. It's an exciting opportunity to speak to you this evening, and an incredible honour to have been awarded the Karen Burt Memorial Award. Dr. Karen Burt was an incredibly accomplished engineer, an absolute role model for women in engineering, and continues being an inspiration today. Receiving an award in her memory is really empowering, and I'd like to start with a big thank you to the teams I've worked with, the selection committee, my nominators, mentors, family, and the fantastic team of supportive women in Balfour Beatty for the incredible positivity they have provided. My name is Tina Gunnarsson, and I'm a senior temporary works engineer, but I'm permanently enthusiastic. Over the next 10 minutes, I'd like to share with you how I temporarily travelled to Rwanda to build a permanent footbridge for 4,300 people, how I temporarily engage in diversity projects to help make engineering more permanently inclusive, and how going through the chartership process temporarily has helped make me a permanently better engineer. As you can tell, I believe in making temporary changes to create permanent improvement in the world around me. Over the last few years, my perception of our industry has been completely reconstructed. I used to think they had to be quite senior, like a project director or a company CEO, in order to really make a change in the world. Tonight, I'd like to share with you how and why my perception has changed during my journey to chartership. So 10 years ago, whilst I was at school, I fundraised for the charity Tabitha, and I travelled to Cambodia to build 15 houses for a small village. and I thought, if I can do this with just a school education, imagine what I could do with an engineering education. So I went on to study civil engineering at Imperial College London as an IC Quest scholar. And after achieving my master's degree in 2015, my next big goal was working towards chartership. So I joined Balfour Beatty as a graduate temporary works engineer. Temporary works is technical, it's highly focused on problem solving, and it's fast paced. Sometimes you only get 3 or 4 days between drawing something on paper and seeing it come to life, which I find incredibly exciting. I've provided temporary works across 30 different projects and 120 elements of temporary works to date, including Crossrail, HS2 and Team 2100. And the absolute highlight, without a doubt, of all of these projects was the opportunity in June 2018 to travel to Rwanda in a team of 10 to construct a 36-metre span suspension footbridge for a community of 4,300 people in the Rubavu region in partnership with the charity Bridges to Prosperity. This project embodies what I stand for and value as a chartered engineer. It has allowed me to use my engineering knowledge to shape and create positive impact in the world, and it was a life-changing and really humbling experience. Several times a year, the Sabea River floods, cutting off half of the village from schools, markets, and access to the main roads for months at a time. This results in multiple annual injuries and fatalities during attempts to cross the river, trying to reach family members, homes, or the local hospital. So during the course of the project, I worked in a team of 10 members from Balfour Beatty and Mott MacDonald, all volunteering and fundraising £20,000 for the project on top of our engineering day jobs. I therefore found myself rapidly developing and maturing skills on both a professional and personal level to give the team versatility that would normally be provided by an entire construction team. During the pre-construction phase, I drew on my temporary works experience to help our team develop a new bridge construction methodology to eliminate the highest risk on the project, which was heavy manual handling to lift the main cables to the very top of the towers. I designed the temporary works, allowing us to raise the towers with that cable already in position. I upskilled to both a quantity surveyor and a planner role, developing a construction program to allow us to complete the build in just 10 days. During the construction phase, I took on various different roles. Overall, my main responsibility was leading construction on the far side of the bridge. I was directly responsible for 4 people from the local village who spoke limited English, which really pushed my leadership, team working skills, and imagination to the limit. I learned basic Kinyarwanda and used lots of pictures to better share my civil engineering and health and safety knowledge with the team, and to help train the local workforce so they knew how to safely maintain the bridge for the next generation. But as much thought and planning as we did, there were some events that we had not foreseen. One day, we had children run into our construction site on the far side of the bridge, which is understandable when your site hoarding is a single piece of tape. So I installed a second piece of tape at child height, and that was surprisingly effective. On a build like this, though, you're not just an engineer, a health and safety supervisor, or a temporary works coordinator. You're also a labourer and a full-time children's entertainer. Social sustainability was really important to me, and we visited schools, which was a real highlight, and used non-verbal games like Jenga to explain the importance of structural maintenance and enthuse the students for a future in engineering. International Women in Engineering Day, or INWED, actually took place on the 23rd of June whilst we were halfway through our build, so we took the opportunity to celebrate. The day sparked some really interesting discussions. So we found out that 50% of the Rwandan government are women, and that's really reflected in their policies. Plastic bags are banned in the country, and they've got car-free days. We have to walk or cycle everywhere. Imagine what a country like this could do if they had the engineering knowledge and resources to empower themselves out of poverty. So as you can see, the new methodology was successful. At the top is what we planned, and at the bottom is what we actually built. Almost all of the bridge was constructed using either local, recycled, or donated material. Over the next 5 years, Bridges to Prosperity are planning on constructing 355 more footbridges in Rwanda, and hopefully we'll be able to adopt a new and safer methodology going forwards. I can proudly say that Minigo Footbridge now allows 800 children to get to school safely each day, and it has given a community of 4,300 people safe, year-round access to the market, local hospital and main roads. Upon returning to the UK, I've continued sharing the Bridges to Prosperity's legacy. I've spoken at conferences and I recruited, interviewed and selected last year's team, who successfully built another bridge in Rwanda. We have another team assembled for this year, which has, under the current circumstances, been delayed until 2021. Rwanda really changed how I viewed my duty as a chartered engineer, and upon returning, I found myself really examining how I, as an individual in my personal life and an engineer in my professional life, can make temporary changes for permanent improvement. At the time, I was what was meant to have been a 6-month but turned into a 2-year secondment as a site engineer on the Madison project. Balfour Beatty's tallest tower at the time, worth £150 million, 53-story residential tower in Canary Wharf. And it was quite a contrast to building bridges in Rwanda. And I thought a lot about how I could make temporary changes for permanent improvement. So I started really small, and the first thing I did was learn basic Romanian. 80 to 90% of our workforce was Romanian, so instead of speaking English louder, I learned some basics to better communicate with my team. I also took on the role of sustainability coordinator. I led 2 consecutive Considerate Constructor scheme audits, which won our site a Gold Award in 2019. I worked with the document controller on our site, who was an amazing woman with incredible ideas, and together we launched initiatives including upcycling campaigns, turning old high-vis vests into shopping bags, and converting hard hats into the plant garden that you can see here. We hopefully helped improve the image of construction by genuinely making it a better place to work. Sustainability, both social and environmental, has always been one of my core values and key drivers in my engineering career, long before I knew about chartership. As a society, we're facing the big climate change questions today, and we're trying to address the Sustainable Development Goals, and the UK has committed to being net zero carbon by 2050. As engineers, we're in this amazing position where we are the people who can actually do something really substantial to help. But we're going to need to think creatively and differently to develop these solutions. And I think by recruiting and retaining diversity, we can automatically introduce that creative thinking into the workforce. And I think that's something Karen Burt and I have in common. Whilst on a Madison, I set up WAM, Women at Madison Network. Through the network, I organised events, including a site-wide celebration for International Women's Day, allowing people of any seniority, company, race, gender or ability to have open conversations about equality over games of table tennis. This is now an annual tradition, and each year we went bigger and bigger, and it was just really exciting to see the events, bringing women together, continuing on long after I'd finished my placement, left site and returned to temporary works. As I was preparing for chartership, I was also really excited to see more and more events such as this pop up, appealing to a more diverse audience. Receiving advice from reviewers in combination with one of my favorite de-stressing mindfulness practices was incredibly exciting. And I think there's a lot more we can do to explore in this space to retain women who are doing the incredible work in our industry already. At the strategic level, I've supported a reverse mentoring program since its early origins in our business, an idea introduced by one of my fellow female colleagues. I mentored 2 senior leaders in Balfour Beatty, a managing director in highways and the CEO for rail and utilities. Meeting regularly over 12 months, I shared my experience as a woman on site and challenged their thinking to drive change, focusing at first on gender diversity and then expanding into cultural disability, or as we call it, ability, and the LGBTQ+ inclusion. And as a result, we've launched 2 further reverse mentoring programs. I wrote my 2-hour chartership exam on my reverse mentoring experiences, for which I was awarded the Renee Redfern Hunt Prize. everything that I've just touched upon, change, chartership, sustainability, and diversity, none of that is an individual journey. It's all team effort. After achieving chartership, I mentored 4 women, 2 of whom have recently sat their chartership reviews, and I couldn't be more proud. I've learned that mentoring goes both ways. These women are a constant source of positivity, encouragement, and support in my life, and together, I think we're achieving much more than we could have even dreamed of achieving individually. But we didn't start as a group of female engineering friends. We came together through organizations such as Women's Engineering Society, through events such as this awards ceremony, and through common hobbies like yoga and bouldering, or even just coming together to take a photo. Simply being nominated for the Karen Burt Award is for me a win in itself. But I believe that all women in engineering deserve recognition for their work to the industry, and the creativity and diversity of thought we add to create better and more sustainable engineering solutions. So this is where I believe all of this change has led me. I'd like to think that it's a temporary change for a permanently better future. A diverse and sustainable future that I look forward to shaping and being part of. I'm really grateful that this evening has given me a temporary platform to shine a spotlight on causes I truly value and believe in, causes that are working really hard every day to permanently improve the world around us. When I first joined the industry, I honestly thought that being a woman, or being a graduate, or not being British, or not playing golf would all be limiting factors to my career. But it turns out that you don't need to be really knowledgeable or really senior to make a difference in the world. All you need to do to make a difference is be an engineer. So after tonight, I invite you all to join me in exploring how you can help make temporary changes to permanently improve the world around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. How amazing to see someone so young who's done so much, and amazing to see your experiences in Cambodia and Rwanda, especially now when after this year and travelling anywhere seems so difficult. But as you say, it's only temporary, so we can hopefully look forward to travel in the coming year. So just a reminder to everyone who's joined us that if you have any questions for Tina, please do post them in the Q&A section on the right-hand side. There's a question here, Tina. Is Tina on? Just waiting for Tina to come on. Questions will be less good if Tina's not here.
I think I am here.
I'll read out some of the questions. Oh, hi, Tina. Hi. Thank you so much. That was such a brilliant talk, really inspiring, and really, I'm sure I'm not the only one to say it really blew me away, actually. So amazing the work you've done. So I have a question here from Kay Cody. She confirms that you were truly inspiring. So thank you for that. Congratulations on the build. She says, what a great experience to really get an all-round perspective of the work that goes into a build. And she asked, of all the roles that you described that you took on, what was your favourite one?
I only get to pick the one. Gosh, you did so much. I really enjoyed. I don't know if
it's just me who can't hear Tina.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Is it just my screen that's frozen? Dawn, I can hear you now, Tina. Excellent.
Okay. So being responsible for the power tools was really exciting, and I also really enjoyed doing.
Tina, are you there? Have I lost you again? Dawn, can you hear? Is it just me?
I'm getting a couple of comments in
we
the
can
chat
hear
that
Tina,
other
Susan.
people
So maybe if you signals when she's finished answering, and then you speak again afterwards.
Okay, so let me wrap up that answer. So I really enjoyed doing the power tools. I really enjoyed doing the decking, but I think the best role was absolutely just being a children's entertainer, which is not a role I do at all, usually in engineering, but the energy and the positivity and the smiles that the children had out there was really what I think made it such a special build for us.
Next question, Susan.
Oh, sorry. I'm so disappointed. I can't hear Tina because she was so amazing on her presentation. But so I did love hearing about your leadership at all levels, Tina, in your talk, and how you spoke about you don't have to be senior to implement change for good. So I'd be interested to know whether you've found it as possible to do that in a corporate environment. And if not, what ask do you have of the senior leaders on this call that they can do to help others maybe earlier on in their careers influence without authority?
So I think the best thing you can do, which Amanda alluded to in her lecture, or didn't even allude to, said outright, was to just listen. And a lot of the senior management I've come across and the senior leaders I've spoken to are actually really appreciative of our younger, or I guess us younger engineers, and they really are willing to listen. So the best thing you can do is to mentor someone. Mentoring goes both ways, as I've appreciated. Just taking a time out to actually hear what other people have to say, I think is the best thing you could absolutely do as a senior leader. Give Susan a little thumbs up so she knows I'm ready.
Are we good to
Next
go?
question, yeah, good to go again.
We're nearly running out of time, so I feel bad that we have to cut this off. Again, there are questions in the Q&A that hopefully we can get to Tina, and maybe we can share them through one of our Wes's media channels, because I know people will be really keen to hear more from you, Tina, and I will be definitely looking out to see what you're doing next. So please keep in touch with the society, because it's people like you that make the network great. So I'll hand back now to Elizabeth to wrap up this evening's session.
Thank you very much, Susan. And sorry for any technical difficulties that were going on, certainly for me. Fortunately, I hadn't seen all the videos, but they all were about 30 seconds behind. So I hope that didn't interfere with your enjoyment. That was a really inspirational speech from Tina, and a really good question and answer session. And I can confirm that we can download all the questions and we'll send them to Amanda and Tina, and hopefully then produce some form of written response for you all. I hope you've all enjoyed this evening's event. I'm delighted that we can celebrate so many people who are supporting women in engineering today. Since our founding in 1919, the Women's Engineering Society has been a conduit for women to become engineers and flourish in their careers. Along the way, a fair few of them made history and changed the world. And we continue to encourage women into engineering and support them throughout the career, because we don't know who next will be changing history. Tonight's inspiring words from Amanda Fisher have shown the heights that women can reach. Fiona Hopkinson proves you don't have to be an engineer to have an influence on women in engineering. And Mark Wilde shows that you don't have to be a woman either. And then we heard from Tina Gunnarsson, who proves you don't even have to be senior in your career to make a difference. And I hope that this has inspired you all to go out and make a difference and shape the world. Thank you so much to our President, Dawn Childs, for hosting this evening's event, and to Wes trustee Susan Robson for asking the questions. Thanks to everyone for their contributions this evening, and to all of you for attending. Please do make a New Year's resolution to join Mentorset, whether to mentor someone who's up and coming or to get mentoring yourself to boost your career. I hope you've enjoyed the evening as much as I have, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next event in 2021. I hope you all have a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year. Thank you.
And thanks to you, Elizabeth and team. Thanks so much. Good night.
Good night.